Now, one of those areas that I get asked about a lot in the comments section of many of my tutorials is how can I make a front-end dashboard for WooCommerce? Now, this is a great question, but it's pretty limited when it comes to finding a solution. But today we'll be taking a look at a recent addition to one of my favorite WordPress plugins, ACF Frontend Forms Pro. Now, you may have seen my tutorial on creating a front-end user dashboard for WordPress. If not, I would recommend you take a look. I'll put a link in the description below to that deep dive. It's highly recommended. Now, this tutorial basically complements and expands upon that topic by adding the ability to manage WooCommerce products. Now, there is currently a limitation on the types of products we can edit, but I'm assured by Shabti, the developer, that downloadable products and variable/complex products are coming very, very soon. However, the topic and the skills that we'll cover today should be easy to expand upon once those extra features are available. And I'm in absolutely no doubt whatsoever that I'll be coming back to them and covering them in a future tutorial. Okay, so let's just stop with the waffling and get stuck in and take a look at the end result we'll be working towards. So let's kick the beginning of this video off with taking a look at what we're going to be creating. Now, if you've seen any of my other tutorials on creating things like front-end dashboards, customizing the account section of WooCommerce, you're kind of going to be familiar with this layout. This is totally free. If you want to have access to this, I'll put a link in the description below so you can download this template and you can just then edit it to do whatever you want. It's all completely using just standard tools that are part of Elementor Pro. So what we have is currently two sections, the add item and edit item. The rest, I've already covered these kinds of things in their own dedicated tutorials that I've just mentioned. So we can ignore everything else that's on this page. But if you want to learn how to do it, I'd recommend taking a look at the other tutorials and I'll drop links to all of those in the description so you can check them out. Okay, so we've got add item and we've got edit item. Click to add an item. It's going to take us over to a new page that allows us to add a new product. So you can see we have product name, product description, featured image, product images, short description, and so on. Now, before we go any further, there are a couple of limitations in what we can achieve right now. Now, I've talked to Shabti, the developer of the plugin that we're going to be using, and he's told me that it is in works that we're going to have full access to things like variable products, downloadable products, and so on. At the moment, we can only realistically work with simple products. So bearing that in mind, this is showing you how to use it, and when these new features come out, which I will cover when they're released, you'll see how easy it is to create something like this. And then as the plugin expands, you can then use those extra tools and facilities to expand what your front-end dashboard can do when it comes to working with products in WooCommerce. Okay, so that's how we'd add a new product in. And right at the bottom, we're going to have submit for approval. And depending upon how you set this up, I would generally set this up if I'm allowing other people to use it and have access to this. I would set it up so they have to be submitted for approval. Then they get approved by an admin via the dashboard of WordPress before they go on the site. But obviously, if you were using this for a client and you didn't want to have that, you can just have these published immediately. That's just one of the options. And we will take a look at that as we go through the process of setting this up. Okay, so that's the adding a new product. If we come back to our dashboard, we also have edit item or edit a product. So we click on that and that will then show us all of the products that are associated with me being the logged in user. So these are my products. Now, this is the easiest way of working with this because it means it's linked through to the end user that logs in. If you have no products, nothing will be listed. If you have lots of products, they'll all be listed, but other users won't be listed. You could bypass that. You could easily create a loop like we'll see in how to do this. You could do that with no restrictions whatsoever. You just have to be an admin or an editor, whatever you want to sort of set up to allow people to log in with that user level and then maybe see all of the products. It's up to you. It just comes down to how you query and how you filter the data you want to display at this point. But as you can see, there's our products. We've got all the products listed inside there. So currently I have about 3 pages worth. And I can simply click on edit product. That will open up a nice modal window and you can see all of the same information is available as we had in the adding a new product. Just this time it's obviously pre-filled out because we've already created a product that we're editing. So this is what we're going to be creating. Now let's take a look at the tools you'll be using to create this. First up, we have ACF Frontend Form Pro, and this is the core to this tool set. This is the core to how we create these custom front-end dashboards. At the time of recording this, there is a lifetime deal going on, so you can grab yourself a lifetime deal if you want to for one site, multiple sites, or unlimited sites. Take a look at that. I'll put a link in the description below, so if you want to see how to use it and you want to grab yourself a copy, you can do that. Next up, we have Advanced Custom Fields. This is just the free version. We also have Advanced Listings, which is dynamic post queries for Elementor. This is a free plugin by the same developer as ACF Frontend Forms Pro. This opens up the ability for us to filter data on more unique and more comprehensive sort of information. So where we want to limit things based upon the user that's logged in, the author, things like that, this free plugin comes in really, really useful. I've covered this in its own dedicated tutorial, so if you want to take a look at that in more detail and some of the other things you could do with it, I'll drop a link again in the description. Pretty much all these things, check out the description because there's going to be tons of really useful links inside there for you. Classic Editor, because I don't like Gutenberg. Elementor Custom Skin, the free version, because we're going to create a custom loop. And if you're not sure what a custom loop is, I'll show you how to use that and how to create it and what it is. And again, there's links in the description to check out not only the plugin, but also the tutorials I've created on this. Elementor and Elementor Pro. We need Elementor Pro because we're going to start working with theme files and so on. So you need to have that. WooCommerce, obviously, because we're going to be creating a front-end dashboard for WooCommerce. And that's pretty much it. You don't need anything else. Whatever theme you want to use, you can use that. So with those things set up, the next thing you want to do is start creating the pages that we need. So the first thing we need to do is create a couple of key pages. And like I say, we are keeping this really simple. This is just going to focus on the editing and adding new products to your database. So we're going to create 3 pages. First one we're going to do is going to be our Woo dashboard. So we're just going to call this Woo dashboard. You can call this whatever you want. This is just going to be the sort of home page for your dashboard. What we are going to do is change the visibility over. We're going to edit that from public and we're going to set this to private. Now this is not the ultimate solution for privacy. This is just basically going to keep users that don't have the administrator or the editor roles out of these pages. I would highly recommend, if you use this on a production site, to increase this kind of security. You want to have custom login with custom redirects and limit who can access these dashboard settings. It's beyond the scope of what I want to cover in this, and because this isn't really a beginner's tutorial, I'm sure you'll be comfortable creating your own login pages. But if you want to find out how to do that kind of thing, I do have a dedicated tutorial. But if you want to find out more about these kinds of things, let me know in the comment section below so I can take a look at creating specific content for your needs. So let's just publish this page. We'll save that out. Once we've done that, we're going to add another new page. And so we'll add a new page, and this one's going to be to add new product. Now, I'm giving these longer names because I've already got some test pages on this copy of WordPress that I don't want to have any issues with. So we'll do the same thing again. We'll change this visibility to be private, click OK, and hit update. And then finally, we'll add one more, which is going to be list products. And again, we'll do the same thing. So visibility, private, OK, update. So we've created what we need now. We've got those 3 key pages all set up, ready to go. So the first thing we want to do is go ahead and create the dashboard for the sort of the home page for our dashboard. So we're going to come in and we're going to edit that. So let's just scroll down, come to our Woo dashboard, and we're going to open that up and we're going to start editing. So we're going to edit with Elementor. We're going to open up the Elementor editor. And if you don't have the design that I've got available to you installed, you'll need to install that, and it's very easy to do. Let me just quickly show you all you need to do. We're going to choose the option for add a template. So we'll click on that. This will open up all the predefined templates, and the third option is my templates. We're going to click on there and you can see I currently have a couple of templates, including my dashboard template clean. So we're going to use that as the basis. Now, if you haven't got this installed, all you need to do is click this little import template icon at the top. We'll click on that. You simply drag and drop the file you can download from the website. Just unzip it, or you can leave it in the zip file if you want to. Select that and that will install it for you, and then you'll have access to it. So with that being done, all we need to do is come back out of this and then we can just open up what we need. So I've gone ahead and installed the basic WooCommerce Frontend Dashboard template. And all I need to do now is I can click preview to check it's the right one. So I can click preview, it'll open up a new tab, and you'll see that will then load in the dashboard for us. Provided I'm happy with that, then I can just say that I want to insert that. and we'll say yes to import the document settings. Once we've done that, we now have our new dashboard template loaded in, ready for us to start creating things and linking things through to all those different pages that we need. Okay, so we've got two different sections we want to work with for this example. You can basically ignore anything else that's available on this page. They're just extra bits and pieces. So add product and view products. These are going to link through to those two pages we've just created. So we need to set up those links first of all. So let's start with the add product option. We'll select the icon and then we need to put the link in. Now you may see one little problem. If I start typing in, for example, woo, which I know is going to be in there, you can see it doesn't show up. It doesn't show us at all. Reason being is because we've set these dashboard pages to be private, which means they won't show up inside this link section. Easy to get past. All we need to do is have another tab open that'll have all our pages listed. I've set these in the order of the date so I can see the latest one. So we want to add a new Woo product. So what we're going to do is we're just going to copy the link for this. So if I click on view, you'll see that will open up a new tab, and there's the link at the top, which you can't see unfortunately because it's off my screen. But all we're going to do is copy that link over, come back in, and we're going to drop that inside there. And there's the full link. Now, if you don't want to use the full link, you can quite easily get rid of anything that comes before the / after your domain. So for example, we've got this wprowebsite.com, then a /. Well, I could get rid of that and I could just have the / and then the name of the page. This becomes a relative URL. I mean, in other words, it doesn't care what the domain is. So if you move this somewhere else, or you were setting this up on a test domain that you were going to move over to the live domain, this is the best way of doing it because it means that you don't have to worry about updating all the links throughout your entire site, depending upon what tools you use, but that can be a bit of a pain. So this is what I'd recommend. We're going to do the same there. We're going to click on add product. We're going to come back to the URL. We'll drop that inside there. We'll get rid of the domain. Just copy the shortened version, and then we'll do the same thing for the add products. We'll drop that inside there. So we've now linked this one up. So all I need to do now is the same for the view products option. So I'm going to quickly do that, then we'll come back and move on. Okay, that's now done. Let's just test that out to make sure everything is working. So we'll just hit preview changes, and from there now we can test these two links out. Now obviously the pages have nothing on them, but we can check we're not getting any 404s, messed anything up there. So we'll hit add product. That takes us over to our add new product page. And we're going to come back at this and we'll do view products. And again, it takes us over to our new product page. So we've got those things set up. We know they're working. We're now ready to start creating the content for each of these different sections. So we're going to start off with the add product because that's probably the easiest and the quickest one to set up. So what we need to do is come back out of our dashboard and we're going to go back into all our pages. And from there, we're just going to say we want to add a new Woo product and we're going to click to open that up. And then we'll open this up with Elementor so we can start working with the ACF Frontend Form Pro. All I'm going to do is type in ACF at the top, and you can see there's the front-end form option. So we're going to drag and drop that onto our page. And you can see this now pulls in the basic layout for us. Now, all we need to do is start to configure this. You can see we can set this up to multi-step if we wanted to. So if you had a sort of really long, complex form, you could go through and set this up into multiple stages to make it a little bit less unwieldy for the end user. Probably not so relevant at the moment for something like the WooCommerce side of things, but if you were using this to create, sort of custom forms and custom layouts, then you could use that option. The actions is where we start configuring everything. So you can see the main action is set to edit post, and you can see that it says at the top. We can change that to any of these options. Now, if you're using the free version of this plugin, which is pretty heavily featured, I must say, so if you wanted to test this out before you bought the pro version to see if it kind of works the way you want, I'd highly recommend taking a look at the free version just to get a real feel for this. But you can see we can do things like edit posts, new posts, and so on. What we want, though, is we want to have the new product option. So I'll click on new product. We then have submit actions. In other words, what do we want to do when you hit that submit button? You can click on there, and the option we have currently is emails. So if you were setting this up for a user, for example, you may have an editor that you wanted to be able to add new products, and you wanted to make sure that you were notified every time a new product was added, so you could then log into the dashboard and confirm it, then you can set the emails up. If you click emails, a new tab at the bottom will open up, and in there you can set up the email shortcodes, who the emails go to, and all those kinds of things. I'm not going to go over that because in all honesty, it is super self-explanatory. You just fill out the details and that'll fire off the email to whoever you specify it goes to. So I'm going to come back up. I'm going to remove that action from there. You then have redirect after submit. So once you submit this form, what do you want it to do? So from there, we can choose to reload the current page. We can have it to go to a custom URL, or we can send it through to the new post URL. So once you create the post and submit it, they could then get forwarded straight over to the page that would show them that particular post, product, whatever. Even if it hasn't been confirmed, they could still see it, but because it's their particular product. So that's quite useful. So what we're going to do is we're going to send this over to a custom URL, and then underneath you can set the URL that you want. So what we're going to do is we're going to send them back to their dashboard. So we're going to click inside there, and I'm going to drop the dashboard short code or the address for that in, and you can see it's our Woo dashboard. So they'll add a product. It'll then be sent over. We can specify if it's going to be automatically added to the site and so on. Once they've done that, they'll get redirected over to the Woo dashboard, at which point they could then decide what they wanted to do, add a new product, list their products, and all those kinds of good things. You can set, if you want to, URL parameters. So you may be doing things with more advanced URLs and you want to add additional parameters on. You can do just that. So you can see and click, you can specify keys, you can also use dynamic tags, and you can also specify the value, and again, use dynamic tags. We don't need that in this example, but it's there should you want to get a little bit more advanced in what happens after a form is submitted. Submit message, you can see this will come up after it's been submitted. So you can say your post, well, we want to change that to your product. So now that makes a bit more sense. Your product has been updated successfully. We're going to change that as well to submitted, but you can set this to whatever you want. Okay, so once we've done that, the next thing we have then is the form structure. And the form structure is a simple way of just configuring certain basic aspects of the form that's going to be used. The title, which in this example says edit post, which obviously isn't correct. Then the form ID if you wanted to use it. You can choose ACF fields if you're using advanced custom fields alongside anything you're submitting via this particular plugin. You can link things through there and so on. So we're not using ACF fields, but you could, if you wanted to, combine ACF fields alongside WooCommerce fields, and you could still use this plugin to edit and update and add content to both of those areas. So that's pretty cool. What we're going to do though is get rid of this edit post because that makes no sense. We're going to get rid of that completely. And we're going to change update to submit for approval. So at least people know when they click on the submit for approval button, it's not going to automatically get added straight into the site. Then we've got the product. And this is where we've got the basic product details, the key product details. And again, like I say, you can use ACF fields if you want to, and there's a little bit of information below there about how you would do that. Now, there's quite a few other things you can set, like product titles, the default product image, and so on. But what I'm more interested in is the product status. Now, you can see at the moment it says published. If we click and expand that, we have 4 options: draft, private, pending review, and published. And this is basically, when you hit that submit button, this is the status that this product will be placed into. So if you are doing something where you have third-party members of staff or so on, adding content, you may want to make sure that's set up to be pending review, whereas you may have people that you fully trust, at which point you set that to be published. I'm going to set this to be pending review. And you can see that's that done. Next up, you can use the product terms if you want to, and you can assign this to typical product categories and things like that. I'm not going to worry about that right now. What we're interested in though is the next set of options, which is the basic field entries that you're going to see. So these are standard things like the product name, the product description, the short description, and so on. And you can specify whether these are set to be required or not. So let's just enable all of these. It's very easy to do. You can see it says none or custom. Click on there, we can say default product description. I'm going to click on there, and you can see the product label and any instructions we may want to add into it. If you want to set to be required, we can do that. And you see you get the little red asterisk next to the name just to tell you that this is a required field. So we can uncheck that, but we obviously want to make sure that the label is set to be required. And there we go. There's one other thing I want to quickly go back to though. Set as slug. If you want to, you can have this set up to be the default slug for the product. The slug is just basically the URL, the bit that comes after your website address and any other subsections you may have, and it'll be the name of the product. Up to you if you want to set that or whether you want to let WordPress set that as default for you in the background. So we can go through and we can just enable any of these or all of these fields. So main product image, for example, we can do that. If you wanted to have a product gallery, you can enable that if you want to. Your short description, you can enable. So you can come through and enable anything you want. Your categories. If you don't use tags, you don't need to include those. But if you do use tags, you can just set those to be default. So you can see that now has increased our entry form considerably. We now have a lot more options available. So that's all the basic options we have. We just come in and we'll just close this down. We're going to come down to product data. And inside here, we have an additional set of fields. And again, these work in pretty much the same way. These are switchable, so you can use them or ignore them. So obviously you'd want to put a price in there for most products, so we'll enable that. You can see we can change the label and we can drop in instructions and also set the required and the width. So let's just set this width to 50% this time. And we'll say we want to put the sale price and enable that as well. And we'll set that to be 50%. Now, if we scroll down, we'll see that we've got the sale price and the price next to each other. If you use SKU codes, you can drop that in there. And if you manage the stock status and whether you want to force people to only be able to buy this product in individual items, you can enable that. So you can see everything is set up down there for us. We can change any of the widths and so on moving forward. So that's the basics of the form. Now, I've been speaking to Shabti, the developer, and in conjunction with what we were talking about, being able to add in sort of more complex variable products and so on further down the line, which hopefully shouldn't be too far away from my speaking to him. It is pretty much in the pipeline and hopefully will be with us very soon. Now, another usability feature that I've been speaking to Shabti about is the ability to drag and drop to reorder these fields, because currently we are restricted to those only being displayed in this specific order, which for most people isn't going to be an issue in the slightest. But there are times where you may want to reorder these to make it a bit more logical for a particular use case. So again, that is something that I understand is also in the pipeline. So it'll be great when those little productivity enhancements come out. Next up, we have the options for permissions and how we can allow people to see different aspects of the site and interact with different things inside this custom dashboard. You can see at the top we have only logged in users, but we can change that to one of three different options. Only logged in, logged out, and all users. Now, because this is a front-end dashboard that we want users to be logged in on, we obviously need to make sure this is the only logged in users can see it. Next up, we've got the select by role. We can click and any roles you have set up will be available inside here, so you can choose who can access this based upon being logged in and having the correct role. Now, it's worth noting that because we set this page up as a private page, doesn't matter what role you set, if it's not an administrator or an editor, they won't have access to this. They won't see the information inside here. So you have to bear that in mind. And this is why, when I said at the top of the video, if you want this to have better level of security and more control, you want to look at something like controlling exactly who can access pages based upon being logged in, setting up a custom login, and all those kinds of useful things. And if this is something you'd like to see me cover in more detail, then let me know in the comments section and I can take a look at that if enough people are interested in take a look at that information. So what we're going to do is we're going to set this to be editor and administrator. Then you can select a specific user. So you could restrict this to only specific users if you wanted to, based upon their username and their email address, and also by their role. So I'm not going to restrict this based upon the user. I just want to make sure only administrators and editors can actually access the content and be able to submit these forms. Finally, we have dynamic selection. Now, this isn't something we need to worry too much about because this is more when you want to filter things and sort of use things based upon the list of posts, the lists of products and so on of the specifically logged in user. So we'll take a look at that and we'll use that in the next stage where we take a look at creating the listing where people can then go in and edit their own existing products. Hope that makes sense. Okay, you can choose to use the WordPress uploader or not. You can have just basic input fields, entirely up to you how you want to work with that. I'm going to leave that as the WordPress uploader. The limit submissions is quite useful too. This is something that if you were making people pay for this, and there are some beta versions of this where you can use both Stripe payments and PayPal payments, so you may have people uploading products, uploading information, and you want to make them pay, you can do that with those extra features. I'm not worrying about that in this example. This is just for a dashboard for WooCommerce products. So you can see we can limit people to various different things. Now currently it's set to subscribers. We could change that over though, and we could say that if you're a editor, for example, you can limit the number of submissions they can do. So we could say we only want to allow editors to do 5 submissions. So we could change that over to editors as well. So there we would now restrict any editor to only being able to put 5 submissions in. We could limit that by role and by user, like we saw earlier on with the permissions. So that's quite cool. Or you could just say you want to limit everybody, and that will limit anyone, no matter what, to only allowing 5 uploads. But if you want to create multiple tiers for editors and subscribers and for authors and so on, you could keep on adding until you hit that limit, and you're good to go with that kind of thing. So what we're going to do is we're going to just change all that and get rid of everything inside there. We're not going to worry about making any changes to this. We don't want to put any limitations in there. And then finally, we have display options. And here we can just go through and we can configure how this particular form is going to work. In this example, we're going to leave it as it is. We're not going to change anything. In the next example, we are going to take a look at using the modal option, because it streamlines the way that the page loads and how we interact, where we have multiple different products we can choose from to make edits to. But for now, you can leave that as is, but you can do things like hide field labels, hide the required field mark, choose where your instructions go, whether they go above or below the field, and you can drop in separators to put separators in between each of the individual items in your form. But apart from that, that is the basics of what we need. Now we can come into the style section, and we can easily come in and we can configure and style all the different things like the buttons, the form fields, all those kinds of things to make sure that everything looks in keeping with the dashboard that we're using. Now, this is one of the limitations of the free version. You don't have access to the styling option. So if you want to get in and style things, that's important to you, you would need to look at the pro version like we are using in this example. But with that being said, I'm not going to worry about styling everything. That's something I'm sure you could do yourselves without any problem whatsoever. We'll click on Update to update this information, and that's our Add New Product page all set up. So let's quickly take a look at that before we move on. This is back into our dashboard, and we've linked everything up and we've created that add product. So we click to add a product. You can see that takes us through now into our form, automatically pulls in the nice editor. So we've got those extra things. We can format the information to do with the product description. We can upload images, put in a product short description, pull in any of the categories, add tags, price, sale price, SKU codes, stock status, etc. So you can see everything is working the way we need it to, and that's the first part of things done. We've now created that, adding a new product in. The next thing we need to do, though, is come back in now, and we're going to create the view product section. There's 2 parts to this. We've created the page that's going to hold the listing of our products. What we need to do now is create the custom loop to display the information that we want for that product. So let's take a look at doing that next. Now, to do this, we're going to come into the theme builder of Elementor Pro. We've got Elementor Custom Skin installed, and you'll see once you install that, you have a new entry called Loop. So we're going to click on Loop, and from there we can create the loop item. And this is basically a template for the individual product that's going to be used inside the edit and view our product section. So currently we have nothing inside there. So let's take a look at doing that now. What we're going to do is add a new loop in, and we're just going to name this. So we're going to call this Edit Product Loop Dashboard, just so I know exactly what this one's all about. Create our template, and what we're going to do now is we're going to pull in the relevant information to display just what we want for a product, to make it easy to distinguish what product it is, and then we can use that to go in and edit things. So let's just close this down. We don't want to use a predefined template. We're going to build this ourselves. So we're going to create a new section. We're going to set a 1 row, 1 column section. And inside there, we're going to now pull in all the things that we want for this. So the first thing we need to do is drop in the image for the actual product itself. Now, we're not going to use things like featured image. We're actually going to come in and we're going to just drag in a standard image. Drag and drop that inside there. From the placeholder, we're going to come over and we're going to click on the dynamic tags option that allows us, like before, to jump in and pull in those details that are stored as part of a product and so on. Click on there. We're going to come down until we get to the WooCommerce section. So now what you'll see under the WooCommerce section is just WooCommerce related shortcode data. So we've got product image and category image. Because this is an image widget, it knows to filter things out to only show us the fields that relate to images. So we're going to choose product image, and you'll see, well, nothing appears. And that's because currently it doesn't really know what to display. We can rectify that and make our lives a little easier so we can see exactly what it is we're working with by coming down to the settings option in the bottom left, click on there, and choosing the preview settings to open that up. It says preview dynamic content as, and this is going to tell it to use some predefined dynamic data to populate this template so we can see what we're working with. So what we're going to do is first of all tell it what type of data we want to use. We're dealing with WooCommerce, so we want a product. Next up, you can see it says all. So we're going to click on there and we're going to just start typing in something that I know is in my database. So we've got hoodies. So we can say hoodie with zipper is fine. And then we'll say apply and preview. That will then reload the page, refresh things, and you can see now we have one featured product or one product we can use as the basis for building our template, our loop template. So what we're going to do, click back on this. We're going to make this a little smaller. We don't need such a large image. We'll set that to be centralized. That's perfectly fine. And now we can go through and we can set up all the extra things that we need. So the next thing we want to put in is going to be the actual name of the product. So we're going to come back out to our widgets, drag a heading widget inside there, center that. H2 is perfectly fine. You can set this to whatever you want. Actually, we'll set this to H3. Okay, so we're going to do the same as before. We don't want the title. We want a dynamic piece of information pulled in from the products. So we're going to click on the dynamic tags option, scroll down until we find WooCommerce. And from there, you can see we now have a range of different tags we can pull in. This one, we want the product title, which is the name of the actual product itself. And there you go, your hoodie with zipper. We're going to repeat the same thing again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly duplicate this. So we'll just click duplicate, and we're going to change the data inside there. We'll change this to H4 to make it slightly less important. And where it says product title, we're simply going to remove that from there. And we're going to click the dynamic tags option again, scroll down. This time we're going to choose product price. And you see that will then pull in the price, at which point we can style that and do what we want. So using this method, you could easily just keep on adding extra information in so you can make sure that anybody that's taken a look at the products they've added can see all the key information for that particular product. I'm going to leave it at this point because I don't think I need anything more in there for now. But what we are going to do is we're going to drop in the option to start editing this. And we're doing this inside the loop item because we need to have this edit option on every single item when we take a look at that listing inside our custom dashboard. This will all become evident when I show you when we've actually put this together, and you'll see what I'm talking about in more detail. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a search for ACF. There's our front end form. We're going to drag and drop that underneath. And you can see this now pulls in pretty much what you saw earlier on. The only difference now is that this is the edit option. And as you can see, it says the post title is hoodie with zipper. So it knows it's editing. So it's going to pull in and pre-fill out those fields with the relevant data. So we can now use basically the same kind of logic to go through and configure this. So actions, we don't want to edit post. We want to edit a product. So we're going to come down and we're going to say edit product. Again, you've got the submit action. So if you wanted to email someone when this is edited, you could do that. And you can also control what happens after you made that edit. I'm going to leave this to reload current page or post because it's just going to reload the listing of the products. So that makes more sense. But you could use any of the other options if you wanted to. And what we're going to do is we're going to scroll down until we get the form structure. We're going to change this from edit post to edit product. So it makes a little more sense. Or you can just delete that from there completely if you don't need it, which is what we'll do. The button then, you can see we've got update. So we're going to say update product. And there we go. That updates in real time over there. And then we can go through the same as we did before. So our product, you can see you've got a product title, default image, and so on. The product status, so we can set that to whatever we want. So you may find that if someone edits something, you may want to force that to go back into pending review or leave it as published. Now, this is something that, again, I'm speaking to Shabti about to see if this can be expanded to take into consideration the published status of what you're editing at any given point, and then either allow you to set that to stay in that particular status or to be updated to something different based upon various different things like the user role. So if you're an editor, you may have full access, whereas you may be an author, at which point if you make a change to an article or content you've written, you want to make sure that gets pending review. Those kinds of things. So hopefully that'll be something that Shabti will be able to take a little look into, and hopefully it'll be something that'll expand this aspect of it. For now, we're just going to say we'll leave this as published. Product to edit, current product or select product. If you chose select product, it will allow you to manually select the product you want to edit, which obviously doesn't make sense in this example. So we're going to leave that as current product. Delete product options, up to you if you want to allow people to delete. If you do, you can enable that and you'll have an extra button that allows people to delete a product. I'm going to keep this to just editing, but the delete option is there should you want it. Then we've got the product fields, so this is going to work in exactly the same way as before. We're going to come through and we're just going to enable the relevant fields. If you want to set any of these to be mandatory fields, you have to choose them, then you can do just that. So I'm going to come there, we're going to set all these up just to make sure everything is in place. And then we'll take a look at the final option, which is for the product data. So you can see now when we scroll down, everything is all pre-filled out from the sample product, this hoodie with zipper. So we'll come down, we'll set these and enable all of these as well. I'm not going to worry about setting these styling and so on these. You can do that, like I say, to make sure everything looks nice and neat and tidy. For me, I'm just showing you how it all works. Permissions, this is where it becomes more important. Only logged in users, administrators and editors like we set last time. Get rid of the select by user, but what we do want to set this time is the dynamic selection. So we're going to set this to be post author. So this will just make sure that only the post author will see these pieces of information and be able to edit this particular product. So we'll close the permissions down. You can limit your submissions if you want to, and again, your display options. All we're going to do in the display options this time is, because obviously you don't want to end up with this kind of listing where we've got massive form underneath every single product. So we're going to set this to show in a modal. We click on that, and then what we end up with, once this reloads, is just a section that has the edit post button. When you click on edit post, that modal window will open up, and then you can edit that form inside there. And that's pretty much it for this section. So we're going to hit publish on there. We don't need to worry about any kind of conditions. We're just going to say save and close. And that now is our loop item set up, ready to be inserted into our edit page. So we'll do that next. So let's open up the list product section. And from there, we're going to edit this page now in Elementor, and we're going to create our listing. So once that's loaded in, we're just going to create a new section. Make a little bit of space above and below for this, just so we've got a little bit of room to play with. On the left, on the bottom, there we go. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to drag and drop in the posts widget. So we're going to drag and drop that into there. Now what we need to do is just set up a couple of things. First, let's come down to the query. And from the query, we're going to change this from posts, and we're going to bring it down, and we want to choose products. So we're going to choose products, and you see that now just pulls in all the products. But what that's doing, that's showing all of the products using the default layout, so we can't edit anything. So the first thing we need to address is making sure this only shows the products related to the logged in user. And this is where the advanced query options plugin really comes into play. And like I say, this is a free plugin, and it is worth its weight in gold for a lot of reasons. You can see underneath the query section, we've got a new entry called advanced query options. We're going to click on there. We're going to choose dynamic user. Once we do that, you can see it says dynamic user options. We're going to open that up, and we're going to choose post author is current user. Click on that, and that's now going to take a look at who I'm logged in as and check if I have any products associated with me, and it'll then list those products. Now, obviously, all of the products currently are listed and associated with my account. So this is going to show all the products. But this is filtering that out to only show things when I'm logged in. If I was logged in as another user that had no products, I'd see nothing here, but I could go and add products in using the add product option, and then everything I add in, once it's been approved, will be listed inside there for me. So that's the query side of things done. Let's drop in the pagination now, because currently we only see 6 individual products, and I know there are a lot more, so I'm going to simply drop in some pagination, and you can see that puts that in there for us. To come back to our layout though, because you can see this is using the default layout and not what we've set up with those edit buttons and so on. So what we need to do, where it says skin, we're going to click and we're going to change that to custom. And from there, we now get an option that allows us to choose what custom template we want to use. And this is our loop template we've just created. So we're going to click and open that up, and we're going to choose the edit product loop dashboard, which is the template we just created. And there are our products with our edit post option as well. So now we've got that pulled in, we filtered things out, we set it up so only the logged in user can see their own posts. Let's hit update on there, and we've basically done what we need to do. So we can come over now into our test site. We're going to go back to our dashboard. We'll refresh this to make sure it's using the latest version. And then we've got our view products option. So let's open that up. That'll take us through now to our view products page, and there's our products. We can click on Edit Post for our WordPress pendant, for example, or pennant example. Click on there and you can see there's our WordPress pennant, all the relevant details, so I can easily come in now, make the changes that I need inside there, add tags, descriptions, change images and so on. Once I've finished, I can hit Update Product. That will update it with the relevant key information. So let's give that a test. Let's change this from WordPress pennant and we'll just put Update at the end of it. And we'll just scroll down and we'll hit Update Product. We'll let that refresh itself and you see WordPress pennant update. As simple as that. Now, obviously, you still need to be careful because some of these products in this example are going to be things like external affiliate products, or they're going to be variable products and so on. So there are going to be some little quirks in there until that full feature side thing is released. But if you're working with simple products at this point in time, or you're watching this a little later where that update has already happened, you will have access to be able to work with those more advanced different types of products. Now, ACF Frontend Forms Pro makes complex front-end dashboard type design much easier. And personally, I can't wait for the new features to be released. If this has piqued your interest and you'd like to learn more about the plugin and some of the use cases, then check out the playlist next to the video and take a look at the deep dive into creating a custom front-end dashboard. As always, all of the applicable links for everything I've covered in this video are in the description below. My name's been Paul C. Until next time, take care.